Danny Hurley may just be out the door at UConn to go coach the Lakers. Could the Tar Heels be a beneficiary?
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, June 7th, 2024, game day for the Diamond Heels. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Seriously, thanks for making us your first listen or watch. It means the world. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there, as well as all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. Y'all, what's up? Well, coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about this UConn wildness that erupted on Thursday morning thanks to a Woj bomb, and I'm going to get you primed and ready for the baseball super regional that starts tonight at the Bosch. By the way, if you didn't catch our live episode with Johnny Castignazzi last night, Tar Heel infielder, you're going to want to go back and watch that or listen to it. I pushed it out to all the audio platforms as well. So if you're an audio listener, that's in there for you. All right, so let's dive right in first to the basketball, and then we'll get to baseball here in a little bit. Most of us woke up on Thursday morning to the news that probably felt fake. You know how there's like fake Twitter accounts for people like Adrian Wojnarowski? And I saw a lot of people being like, this Danny Hurley news, that's from a fake account. It's like, no, y'all, this is legit. It's real. I couldn't believe it either, but it is apparently a very, very strong thing. Despite all the JJ Redick stuff, from what ESPN reported, Danny Hurley has been their choice target all along, the front runner, but they just wanted to vet other options. But this is their guy. This is who they want. Danny Hurley repeatedly getting a massive offer from the Lakers. It's not, as I record this, which I should timestamp it because this stuff's going to be flying all weekend long. So right now it is 11:56 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, heading into Friday in the next 5 minutes here. So reportedly that just a little bit before I started recording, John Fanta, who you probably know that name if you're a college basketball person in a big way, said on Thursday night, quote, UConn has offered Danny Hurley a contract that would make him one of the country's highest paid coaches. A source says he will make a decision in the near future, end quote. I had also read, I think also from Fanta, that Danny's wife, Andrea, is flying out to LA right now to go check things out. So we'll get to the Tar Heels side of this all in a little bit, because you might be wondering, like, Isaac, why on earth does this matter? Well, there are some personnel things that happen with this from a player standpoint that could affect the Tar Heels. So we're going to get there. I just want to set it up for you first. So stay with me. What I love about it is it sounds like Danny Hurley is being very upfront with his team. He met with them Thursday morning to, like, no cloak and dagger stuff. Hey, I want you to know the Lakers have reached out. I want you to know I'm listening to it. But as of right now, business as usual. And then they had practice. Or I don't know if it was immediately, but, you know, there was a practice upcoming. But from Fanta's reporting, it sounds like Danny Hurley is truly 50-50 on this thing. He has said a lot. The only reason he would leave UConn is to go to an NBA job. And this isn't just any NBA job. This is, you know, the biggest NBA franchise there is. Maybe the Celtics would beg to differ, especially with what they just did to the Mavs a little bit before I started recording this. But would be wild, though, if he turned him down, right? Like, because he turned down Kentucky earlier this offseason. I don't know that any or many coaches can say, hey, I turned down Kentucky and the Lakers in the same cycle. Or maybe he's just using the Lakers for leverage, which that would be a wild gangster move. You would love to see that. So we're going to see what has happened, or excuse me, what will happen. I mean, legitimately, I expect something to happen this weekend, and then we could be talking about it again on Monday. So here's where the Carolina side of this comes in. First off, I know a lot of folks are not Danny Hurley fans. I personally am. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a wild card. I think he's different, and I like that stands out and brings notoriety to college basketball. So from that standpoint, I don't want him to go. I think he's good for our sport, and I love it. from the North Carolina side of it, here's what you need to be aware of. You may or may not know that when a head coach leaves the program, it triggers a 30-day transfer portal window for the entire roster. So that means that every Husky, it's open season, baby. And you've got to know this right now. Coaching staffs or, people going behind the scenes, whatever, making check-ins are not waiting for Danny Hurley to say he's gone. They're checking in now on all these guys to say like, hey, if Coach Hurley leaves, would you consider it? And that's not a thing. The other thing of it too is, we're going to talk about some UConn players here in just a second, but it doesn't have to just be UConn. If Danny Hurley leaves and then UConn goes and gets another head coach from somewhere else, it triggers a coaching carousel, and we're going to have multiple teams with this 30-day window. That would be wild too. That said, though, UConn has some phenomenal assistants, Luke Murray, Kamani Young, and if neither of them go with him to LA, if that happens, then I would expect UConn to elevate one of them at least at an interim level for the short term, which we've seen work out at a couple places lately. It's worked out at Texas, where Rodney Terry's now the head coach. Ohio State just hired Jake Diebler this offseason, who stepped in as interim head coach last year. And so, that's a possible thing. But we're just going to have to wait and see. I will say, though, end of the day, if you're making me make a call right now, I think he goes. I think Danny Hurley goes to the Lakers. I wouldn't have thought it when I went to bed last night. But with everything that's transpired today and knowing his desires to get to the NBA, I see it. So there are three guys specifically that I want to talk about from UConn that I would be very interested in, one infinitely more than others. The first of which is Alex Karaban, who, if I'm Alex Karaban, who just pulled out of the NBA draft kind of at the last minute, coming back, we're going to try to win a three-peat here, and all of a sudden coach is out the door. And it's like, I came back, at least in part because of you, and now you're gone. Then I'm gone too, right? I could see that being his mindset, but he can't go back to the NBA now. So it's like, all right, so where are we going to go? Or there could be a circling the wagons moment. I could see that with he and his teammates. But man, Alex Karaban, if you, as a Tar Heel fan, think that Van Allen Lubin or Jalen Washington or a combination of the two will be able to hold down the 5 for North Carolina, Karaban plays the 4 for UConn. He is their power forward, which is kind of funny because, I know a lot of Tar Heels folks say there's no way Cade Tyson can play the 4. And he is smaller and less experienced than Karaban, but it's very comparable in what they do. Anyway, that said, dude, I would love Alex Karaban as North Carolina's 4. You pair that with Cade Tyson at the 3 and RJ Davis at the 2, Elliot Cadeau facilitating, and Lubin, J-Wash, whomever you want to go with at the 5, just out there doing yeoman's work, being like that kind of guy. Whew, that they are going to shoot the lights out if you could pull that off, right? Karaban, 6'8", 220, listed at least on UConn's roster. His combine measurements were 6'6.5", which they do without shoes, by the way, 219, and then a 6'11" wingspan. And so don't look at this dude and be fooled. He's a beast. But seriously, the Heels would shoot the freaking lights out with Karaban at the 4, Tyson at the 3, and RJ at the 2. Let me just give you some of these numbers from his he redshirted his first year and then has had a redshirt freshman year and redshirt sophomore year. So every year he's played college basketball, he's won a national championship. Oh, by the way, stats aside, the dude's a winner, right? Freshman year, 9.3 points, 40.2% from 3 on 4.2 attempts a game, 80.9 from the free throw line, 58.7 from 2, got 4.5 boards, 1.7 assists. Last year, as a redshirt sophomore, his points went up 13.3 a game as he had to take on more responsibility after so many of those guys left from that first championship. 37.8% from 3, so that went down a little bit, but his attempts went up to 5.5 per game. I'll live with that. His free throw percentage way shot up, 88.5%, and shot 64% from two. So he's not just out sniping, kind of like Cade Tyson. He gets in and drives to the hoop. 5.1 rebounds per game, 1.5 assists per game. So that went down slightly, but has under a turnover a game last year, 0.8 turnovers, and then also just shy of a 1 steal per game and just shy of 1 block a game. So Alex Karaban, man, if this happens, I would back up a Brinks truck for that dude, get him to North Carolina. Now, the others that I would look at are Samson Johnson, who's kind of the next in line to be the 5 there at UConn after, you had Donovan Clingan this year and doing all the work that he did with Johnson behind him. I thought Johnson was great. So he is the one to step into that this year. Maybe he would leave if Danny Hurley leaves. The one, though, that I think might be the most upendable is Tarris Reed, who had transferred into UConn from Michigan. He's the one that has the least amount of connection of these 3 guys to Storrs, Connecticut, because he's never played there before. And it's like, oh, Danny Hurley's gone. Can I go too? Yeah, come on. So this is all just something to keep your eyes on. If Danny Hurley is out the door, what does this roster do? Because again, they have a 30-day transfer portal window. Can they circle the wagons and rally the troops, or will some of these guys get picked off? And I'm just telling you right now, give me all the Alex Karaban. I'm all in on that. So we'll see what happens with it. I'm sure news will break over the weekend and we can look at it more Monday if we need to. But I just thought it was a very, very interesting storyline that could have extremely helpful ramifications for the Tar Heels if things play out right. Now, let's switch to baseball. Including this year, the Tar Heels have now been to 4 of the last 6 super regionals, but they haven't advanced out to Omaha since 2018, the first of those 4 that we're talking about. Is this the year to get back? We're going to look at that in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors, passion, drive, patience. What the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. They have over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. And with that, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Oh, baby, let's turn our attention to baseball. I'm holding mine a little circle change up for you tonight on as I record on what's now midnight Eastern time. North Carolina hosting West Virginia at the Bosch all weekend long, or hopefully not all weekend long, hopefully just Friday and Saturday, because this is a best 2 out of 3 series. That's how the super regionals work. Whoever wins 2 games first is on to the World Series. Let me lay out the schedule for you here really quick. Friday tonight, June 7th at 6 p.m. Eastern. All 3 of these games, by the way, are on ESPN2. There's no spread, but the money line is Tar Heels minus 265, West Virginia plus 200 on our good friends at FanDuel. Saturday, tomorrow, June 8th. This can be a later one, 8 p.m. Eastern time, ESPN2. And then Sunday, the if necessary game on June 9th is a nice afternoon affair, 3 p.m. Eastern, also again on ESPN2. The money line to win the Super Regional, Carolina minus 280, West Virginia plus 210. So all in on that. I will probably go live. Like if the Tar Heels are onto the World Series, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, I will probably go live with a celebratory postcast. Might do it tomorrow. I know there's folks been asking for some of different things. We'll see how things play out over the weekend. Again, also a reminder, check out the interview with Johnny we had last night. Super fun, recapping the regional, all the stress and everything from that, and then looking ahead to this weekend as well. Also, here's great news. Remember all the hubbub about the home and visitor, and Carolina didn't get to be home either of the last 2 games against LSU. Thankfully, there's no coin flips, nothing like that in the Super Regional. Carolina, well, ideally, they would be the home team for all 3 games. Doesn't work that way, but home team for the first one, visitors for the second. You get to keep your own dugout. You're obviously still at the Bosch. And then if it comes to game 3 on Sunday, the Tar Heels would once again be the home team. So great news there. But as any athlete would tell you, you got to go out and win the baseball game. You can't let stuff outside of your control like that affect you. You got to do the work. All right. What I want to do now is give you a kind of Tar Heels preview update, look at where things are at. And then in segment 3, we'll look ahead to West Virginia because I want you to be aware of what you need to know about the Mountaineers. So typically Jason DeCaro is the Friday night starter, and you would expect him to go in this one. But a reminder, he started last Friday, only threw 65. So then on 2 days rest on Monday, he started against LSU, threw 2 innings and came back out. I don't have that pitch count in my head, but it was around 50. That said, on Friday, he would only be going on 3 days of rest. To put it in a framework for you, a typical major Major League Baseball rotation is every 5 days. So 4 days of rest and then you pitch. He's used to, though, throw Friday night, game 1 of a weekend series, and then throw the next Friday night. So you get a whole week's rest. Or if it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you might get one shorter day. But this would be starting on short rest after even shorter rest. And so very wisely, in my opinion, Coach Forbes is starting Shea Sprague Friday instead of Saturday. I think that makes a ton of sense. Sprague started Saturday through 93 and then hasn't thrown, didn't throw the rest of the weekend. So I love this. It's a great call. Look, you roll your dudes out and that's what you got to do. So that is the expected result for me. The question then becomes on Saturday, do you go with Aiden Hawk or do you now bring out Jason DeCaro? Some of this, let me just go through some of how my brain processes that. Some of it might depend on Friday's outcome. How do the Tar Heels do? If they lose Friday and are facing elimination on Saturday, you don't want to get sent home with Jason DeCaro sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? So I think if Carolina loses tonight, definitely DeCaro Saturday, as long as his arm's good to go, which I think it should be by that point. If you're fighting for your life, roll with DeCaro. If Heels win tonight, Friday, I could see let's give DeCaro another night of rest, let him be Sunday starter, and then roll with Aiden Hawk tonight, right? That seems to make some sense for Saturday. But even still, if you started DeCaro on Saturday night, it would have been short rest before the normal MLB rotation rest. So you just got to kind of feel out where his arm's at. There's got to be trust between him and the coaching staff on that. Ultimately, as long as DeCaro feels that he's ready to go and the coaching staff agrees, I think he will be your Saturday night starter. And then Sunday you roll with Aiden Hawk, obviously. The key for me on the North Carolina side of things is Vance Honeycutt. And I know congratulations, Isaac. A soon-to-be first-round draft pick is the key for Carolina. But hear me out on why. This dude is at the top of the order. And while you get the phenomenal moments at the plate, like the 2-homer game he had in the first game against LSU, and while you're going to get all the defense there, that is never in question. The problem is the amount of strikeouts that Vance has. And key for me for the Tar Heels this weekend, and if they want to have success going forward to Omaha, is Vance has to make contact with the baseball, right? He is the head of the snake, the top of this thing. And this is an elite lineup that needs help from its number one guy to get on base. So, yes, you want the bombs, but you also want the on base percentage so that Casey Cook and D'Onofrio and Parks Harbor and Osuna can be knocking him in behind all that. These guys want to come up with dudes on base, and Vance needs to be able to do that. So we'll keep our eyes out on how that goes. But to me, that is a key thing for this. And speaking of that lineup, man, Coach Forbes is a genius for how he has constructed this thing. If you've never stopped and looked at Carolina's lineup, go look at their batting. It goes, starting with Vance, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, switch hitter in Wilkerson at the end of the lineup. Y'all, that is genius. Genius. Now, for those of you that are Major League Baseball fans that don't pay much attention to college baseball, there's not the 3-batter minimum. In the majors, if a reliever comes in, he's got to face 3 dudes. Not so in college baseball. So you can keep going back and forth, but eventually you're going to deplete your bullpen. And so I love this because it's like if you bring in a lefty for a lefty-lefty matchup, immediately after that at bat, you've got to make the choice. Do we want to trust our lefty pitcher against Carolina's righty batter, or are we going to, burn another bullpen arm? So, this lineup construction, brilliant. Well done, Scott Forbes. You love to see it. And just a reminder that even if it's a slow start offensively, 27 outs. That's the motto. Hashtag 27 outs. You got to get every one of them to beat the Tar Heels. We saw it last Friday against Long Island. We saw it Monday against LSU. This team does not mind grinding and finding a way to make it happen. And by the way, this whole thing is wide open, right? Sure, Tennessee kind of seems like a big favorite right now. But beyond that, I mean, even Texas A&M and Kentucky, who are the number 2 and 3 national seeds, no reason you can't get past some of these teams. Carolina has the ability to win this whole thing. But if they want a shot at that, if they want to get to Omaha, it all starts with taking care of business against West Virginia this weekend. And that's where we're headed next. We want to get you primed and ready for the Mountaineers. West Virginia Mountaineers, if you don't remember, they're in the Big 12 these days. Or at least right now, they are 36-22 overall. They were 19-11 in Big 12 play. That was good for 4th in the conference. Despite that, though, they got swept out of the Big 12 conference tournament. Unlike the ACC with the pods, the Big 12 actually does a bracket, and they lost their first 2 games. Went to the losers bracket as the 4th seed and then lost again to the purple teams, to K-State and TCU. So that's where that went. They're 14-14 on the road, so that bodes well for Carolina, who has only lost 3 times all season long at the Bosch, so you love that. This is the first ever super regional for the West Virginia Mountaineers. And it's like, dude, congratulations. That's so big time for your program. I'm really happy for you. For the Tar Heels, there are guys on this team that were at, part of the team that played in the super regional, hosting Arkansas a couple years ago, where the Tar Heels got swept, but they've learned a lot from that. There's something to be said for that experience that you have going forward. And so I know West Virginia's riding high, and it's in some ways like, hey, we're playing with house money here, so let's go out and do work. But Carolina has the experience and home field advantage on their side. Another thing, West Virginia was playing in the Tucson regional, which is where Arizona was the number 1 seed, number 13 national seed. They were number 1. Dallas Baptist was number 2. You've probably heard me say this week, I thought Dallas Baptist was the most dangerous team in that regional, but neither of those teams got out. They both lost their first game, and West Virginia does work. They beat DBU on Friday night and then only had to beat Grand Canyon twice to advance. Now, all you can do is beat who's in front of you. So I'm not poo-pooing what West Virginia did, but they didn't have to face a lot of big guns. We'll just say that. So what do you need to know? Who do you need to know about West Virginia? Well, first, let me say this is head coach Randy Mazey's last season. He's retiring at the end of this year. And so that's tough for the Tar Heels because, there's like a, hey, let's do it for coach kind of moment that you got to overcome. And so we're looking at that. 2 position players and 1 pitcher I will tell you about. Number 1, the dude you have to know about this team is J.J. Weatherholt. Vance Honeycutt is not the only top prospect leading off for his team this weekend. J.J. Weatherholt, in fact, typically from all the mock drafts I've seen, is projected to go even higher than Vance in the draft. He played second base last year, has been shortstop all this year, expected top 10 pick. He has dealt with a hamstring injury that he suffered early on in the college baseball season, but he's been back since April at some point and looks fine to me. And so he should be ready to go. And that's how you want it to be, right? You don't want to get a lopsided like, oh, we beat this team, but their best prospect wasn't playing. It's like, all right, fine. So this year he's only hitting .345 with 8 bombs and 30 ribbies. I put that in air quotes for those of you listening. Only .345 because last year, .449 was his batting average, 16 bombs and 60 RBI. So really, really went off. So don't let those numbers fool you. He just missed a bunch of time this year. The other position player you need to know is third baseman Reed Chumley. Of qualifying hitters, which doesn't include JJ Weatherholt that we just talked about. He leads the team in both batting average and OPS 310 and 1.059. In fact, other than Weatherholt, he's the only hitter on this team with an OPS over 1. So watch out for Chumley as well. And obviously other dudes are going to get hits, but those are the two names that you really need to know. In terms of pitching, the guy we'll see tonight is Derek Clark. He's typically their Saturday starter throughout the season, but is their front end guy. He pitched game 1 of the regionals. He will be the starter tonight. He's a lefty, a legit front end guy, 2.82 ERA. That's fantastic. 8 wins, 2 losses on the season through 4 complete games this year, including the win over Dallas Baptist last Friday. Allowed just 4 hits, 1 run, no walks, and 8 strikeouts. So this dude has control. He'll K you up, and you got to be ready for it. But here's what's interesting. My man is listed at 5'9". He says he's even shorter. And so he's not a guy that's going to overpower you. We're thinking Greg Maddux for those of you that are 90s people, right? Throws upper 80s. He'll brush 90 every now and again. But it's the mix of pitches and the control that will get you. He's a little bit of a magician. So you got to be ready for that, right? Now, beyond game 1, where Derek Clark can go and go and go. Game 2, I expect it to be Tyler Switolski, who threw game 2 of the regional. And I expect to see him start Saturday's game. He's another lefty. The thing is, after that, game 3, if necessary, I'm not sure who to expect to start. They've had a couple different guys they've used as a third starter. And quite frankly, not a ton of success. Cooper Hayden started a lot of Fridays for them, but is really not their number 1 guy. Things didn't often go great. Also, he started their clincher against Grand Canyon in their regional and didn't record a single out, gave up 3 or 4 runs. So I don't even know that they necessarily know what they're going to do yet, and they don't have to. So the key to me with beating West Virginia, aside from, the defensive side of things, offensively for Carolina, get to the bullpen. There is a sharp drop off, just not much depth. So what that means is that Carolina needs to work pitch counts, make Clark in particular on Friday, this dude that's out here throwing complete games, make him work, make these innings tough for him. Don't bail him out. I get it that you want to be aggressive when you need to be, especially with a magician, a guy that's a spotter. When you have the pitch, go get it. I get that. But don't bail him out. Don't help him out. Same thing with Switolski on Saturday. Go deep into counts. Don't help these guys out. And then hopefully 5th, maybe 6th inning, you're into the bullpen, and that's when it's time to make hay. And the Tar Heels can do that. So, gang, that's the West Virginia primer for you. We're watching out for Derek Clark on the mound tonight, and then the hitters you want to watch for are JJ Weatherholt leading off, and then Reed Chumley as well in the hot corner. Just a quick side note for you. Remember a couple days ago on the show, I had talked about the legislation going through that's been proposed that would require the Tar Heels to play NC State every year in football and men's and women's basketball, as well as kind of a rotation of home and road stuff against ECU, App State, and Charlotte. And my stance on that is that that's not a good thing for the Tar Heels. Yes, some might see it as a good thing for the state and revenues and all playing together and that kind of stuff. But for the Tar Heels, I just think this is bad and hamstringing and tying an anchor to them that shouldn't be tied to them. Well, the good news is that on Thursday, House Speaker Tim Moore said that this will, quote, will not advance any further, end quote. More from Moore. He said, quote, it's had the hearing it will have. It had a committee hearing. I told them they could hear it in committee, but it won't come to the floor, end quote. So this thing isn't even going to get introduced on the floor. It's not going to go anywhere. And so thankfully, not cooler heads, because that makes it sound like people were getting all riled, but just level heads. Maybe that's what level heads have prevailed here. And it's like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to legislate Carolina scheduling what they need to do. Frankly, it's probably a better thing for the state overall for recognition and national notoriety if the Tar Heels are playing the national schedule that they always do. You want to anyway, I'm not going to get all into it again because it's a whole thing. But this, in my opinion, is a really good thing for the Tar Heels. Why? They're not going to be hamstrung further in their scheduling. They're already committed to so many scheduling things. They're so beholden to various things and various entities that anymore, particularly long-term non-conference scheduling things, which could even mean NC State at some point, are no bueno for the Tar Heels. So thankfully, this thing is dead before it even really truly got legs. Thank you and well done. Thank you, House Speaker Tim Moore. We appreciate you. All right, gang. Going to be a fun one tonight. Hopefully the Tar Heels can get off to a great start. You want to get that game 1 win so that you're not playing from behind. We'll see how things go. I'm going to be tuned in. I know you will be as well. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. If you're not subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do so quick and easy. On YouTube, by the way, hit that bell notification so that if and when I go live after these baseball games, man, you'll get a notification. You can just tap right in and celebrate together. Also, if you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, we'd love to have you. The link's in the show notes. It's free to join. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. I said it a second ago, but I'll say it again. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again soon, but until then, peace.